Hi everyone, I'm back. We're going to talk about David again. This is lesson number 23. And now we're going to, after David took care of Goliath, got him out of the way, he had asked Saul earlier, he said, well, what do you get for killing this giant? And Saul said, I will give my daughter in marriage. So that's exactly what he did. He married Saul's youngest daughter. I'm not sure just exactly how you pronounce her name, Micah, maybe perhaps, something like that anyway. Later on, David, I'm just going to try to hit the highlights here. Saul, he had anxiety, depression, whatever. The Spirit of the Lord had left him. And he needed something to soothe him. And so someone said, this David played the harp and did all that. And so he said, why don't you let him come and see if this helps? Well, he did. And so he asked, Saul sent word and asked his father, Jesse, if he could stay in his court and be his, he sang to him and he played the harp and the lyre it was called. Anyway, and he did that. And Saul loved him at first. And I think it was during that period of time that David met Jonathan and his son, and they hit it off. They were joined at the hip, and they made a covenant. And if you want to, I talked about that covenant one time, and I think it's in lesson number 7. If you want to go back, and if you want to go back and rehearse the covenant again, lesson number 6 was about the blood covenant, and then I followed that with the covenant that David and Jonathan did. And so now is the time when that covenant was cut between those two individuals. Anyway, he made him his armor bearer. Later on, he made him a commander over part of his army, Saul did. But then, when David became so popular, and everybody loved him, and everybody was singing, oh, Saul had done thousands, but David has done 10,000s, well, he got jealous. So much so that eventually he tried to kill him. And at one point when he really did, and he threw his sword or his spear at David and he barely missed him, David thought, nope, gotta leave. So he vacates and goes out into the wilderness, and I believe that he left the wife Micah. I don't think he took her with him. And I believe he was out there like 20 years. And all this time, Saul hunted for him, tried to kill him, all this time. And 2 times, God delivered Saul into David's hand. And I won't tell you exactly how both of those were, but there was 2 times that David could have killed him, but he didn't. And he said, I will not touch the Lord's anointed. And that's one of the reasons I really think that God loved David, was because he was just. He could have killed him, but he didn't. And even though Saul, that was his intent, was to kill David, but he didn't. But David told him about it, and he stood on one side and he said, why are you doing this? I had my chance to kill you. I cut off a piece of your robe. Here it is. You were asleep. I could have killed you, but I didn't, because I don't want to do that. And of course Saul said, well, what have I done? I'm sorry. But then he went right back and did it all over again. But later on, I'm going to hurry through here and tell you, later on, Saul and Jonathan were both in a battle, and they were both killed. And So at that time, one of Saul's other sons, I can't remember what his name was, Ishbishmish or something, I can't remember, assumed the throne, but it didn't last. And I'm not going to tell you all about that. I want you to read about that. It is just so interesting. And later on, David was crowned king, and he served the tribe of Judah as their king for 7 years. But then later, the whole country, all the rest of the 10 tribes, joined and crowned David king, and he reigned for 40 years. Saul reigned for 40 years. The Lord didn't take his throne away from him immediately. No, he reigned for 40 years. And then David reigned for 40 years before his death. And during his reign, he moved the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh, where it had been ever since Joshua, I guess. It had been housed there in the tabernacle, but he moved it to Jerusalem because David made Jerusalem the city of David. He made that his city, and he wanted to build the temple, but God wouldn't let him. He said no. That his descendants would build the temple, and they did. But that was one of the things that he did, but he enlarged the borders and brought peace and prosperity and justice, and they loved him. He was very charismatic, and wrote all those psalms and danced before the Lord and everything. He was just bigger than life. But it was during one of these battles where his men were off in the battle, and he wasn't there. He stayed in his palace. They had a palace built. He was up on the roof. He couldn't sleep. And when he gazed down, now he had many wives. He gazed down, and he saw this beautiful woman bathing, and he wanted her to have sexual relations with him. So he sent for her and had her brought to the palace, and sure enough, seduced her, and she became pregnant. And when she sent him a note and said, I'm pregnant, and my husband has been off in the battle. Well, he sent for Uriah, was her husband's name. He sent for Uriah to come and see him. Now, he was a little scoundrelly here, very scoundrelly, really. I praised him for his courage on the battlefield and all of his, and he said, I come and eat with me and stay here a couple of days or whatever. Go down to your wife. Go home while you're here. I just wanted to thank you for what you've done, and go to your wife, or go to your house. But Uriah didn't. He felt guilty because there were all his fellow soldiers out there in the field, and they couldn't come home to their wives. So he slept outside the palace on the ground. And when David was told about that, he thought, I wanted him to go make love to his wife, so then it would be his child. But he didn't do that. And so he sent a note with him back to Joab, his commander, and said, put him on the front lines, and when he's surrounded, withdraw so that he'll be killed. Didn't say so he'll be killed, but just withdraw. And that's exactly what he did. And of course Uriah was killed, and he married Bathsheba. He had her brought in, and he did marry Bathsheba, who incidentally is the mother of Solomon, who will take the throne when David passes. But he really blew it. And when I come back, I will tell you more about what happened after that. But that's all for tonight. That's enough for tonight. I will talk to you another time. Bye.